Okay, so the title of my presentation is Designing for Dignity, and I will be talking about architectural strategies for holistic resident care in permanent supportive housing. So, I would like to share some impactful points with you today from my experience in researching, observing, writing about, or participating in different design teams for the creation of permanent supportive housing and homeless shelters for, again, persons who are experiencing um, housing instability. And my talk will focus on five big topics today. The first one is we will be talking about why physical place and design even matter. Why are they important? We will talk about stress and trauma. We will discuss principles of trauma-informed design, dignified design framework, and throughout my presentation, I will share some uh, examples with real life spaces and experiences. So why in my work, I investigate why physical place and design matter. And what gets me particularly excited about this topic is the potential of place to make a big difference in people's lives. First, uh, physical places may help heal people, heal physically or emotionally. The second reason is to empower one to make their own decisions in life and to ultimately help people to find a peaceful and fulfilled life. So, recent research and particularly theories of embodied cognition tell us that what people perceive uh, and act on may be influenced by what they physically sense in their bodies, by their bodies. For example, if you look at the image, you can see that, we can wake up to in the morning to a beautiful cup of coffee and it has a lovely aroma and it awakens us. It kind of stimulates our senses. We feel energized. We feel happy, perhaps, and we are ready to start the day. But think about other folks who may not have our comfortable environment and warm cup of coffee to wake up to. They might have a lukewarm, watery coffee at best to continue talking about coffees. So, if this is true, then the interior environments and architecture that people use may influence how they see the world, what they believe, and what they choose to do. We know, for example, if people vote in a public place like a school or church, they could be more sympathetic to issues of public civility. And if people perceive homeless shelters as frightening by even by just the look of it, we can they can anticipate that their bodies and minds would also be affected by it. And so they may avoid services that are even offered by those homeless shelters. So there are also psychological constructs and associations and triggers that we need to keep in mind when we design spaces or when we are even trying to run an organization or space for people in crisis. For example, Black bunk beds can remind people of being in jail. Sometimes stressors can spring people into action, like a calendar that reminds a person of deadlines looming for their recovery plan when they must leave the shelter. So, furniture, walls, windows, and doors are not just physical things that we encounter in a space, but they're also conveyors of meaning. Um, in a way, they're a mirror that is reflected back at people. What is permissible and what is not. How much freedom people have. How much others care about them. All of that is reflected in the built environment. So what may be possible physically, mentally, and emotionally, it is all communicated through built environment and spaces that surround us. So, in other words, built spaces are really radio signals that people receive, sharing lots of intel that they subconsciously hear and respond to. People feed off of our surroundings and the objects in it, and their reflection telling them who they are. This is especially strong with places where people sleep, eat, and live. These feelings tie into thoughts about dignity and self-esteem, and also how a client feels about an organization that they're engaged with. Again, example of visual clutter. Visual clutter can affect residents and may cause kind of in overall confusion where the person is, what their schedule is, where they are with their things, reminders of the appointment. And as the result, the person can meet an important, let's say, resume building or job interview appointment. And that can result in the perception of personal failure. Like, for example, I couldn't even get this one thing right. So what should I expect from the rest of my life? So other research helps us better understand extraneous factors that may affect how we perceive and interact with built environment. For example, the theories of scarcity, like described in the book published by McLane and Shafir, where the authors, in this book, the authors describe that being without food, shelter, and money to pay bills captures the mind, and there's very little cognitive load left for thinking about other operations or functionings. So the ramifications of this in built environment could be manifold, even in simple things like wayfinding and signage, uh, 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 meaning that these aspects of environment, signs, again, directional signs, exploratory signs, need to be legible and clear. So this theory of scarcity points out potential benefits of built environments to be in tune with their institutions' policies, that they function at an intuitive level. Persons in these situations are conditioned to reach conclusions that are different than persons without these stressors, and thus poor persons may hold different perceptions and priorities that we formally assume. So another issue that is encountered often when working with unhoused populations or vulnerable populations is the concept or problem of helplessness. With homeless folks, stigma from homelessness is different than that stigma that is attached to people not having water or food. This can lead to a sense of helplessness, and that people cannot change their futures through their own actions. And in its turn, it can hamper finding a job, securing a home, living availability of home is aside. So environments and policies that people perceive as overly authoritative, unfriendly, dictatorial can reinforce the sense of helplessness. And in a homeless shelter, when you are assigned a bed with a number, this also can be demoralizing, and when one has a perception that there is nothing they can do. So stress and trauma also, of course, play a big role in design in homeless population, and need to be considered when we design for them. According to the well-building standard, there is a growing body of research that shows that housing quality is associated with morbidity from both chronic and infectious diseases, physical injuries, and mental disorders. The World Health Organization report states that social determinants of health, which are broadly defined as the conditions in which people are born, grow, live, work, and age, and people's access to power, money, and resources, have a strong influence on health inequalities. People who have limited access to quality housing, education, social protection, and job opportunities have a higher risk of illness and death. Research shows that these social determinants can overweigh generic influences in healthcare access in terms of influencing health. And so therefore, these lack of resources and access to these resources elevates stress level. And subsequently, long-term exposure or chronic exposure to stress is associated with negative effects on the cardiovascular and immune system, making people more vulnerable to communicable diseases. Architecture and design can anticipate and rise to meet people's needs, physical, psychological, and emotional. So at this point, I would like to invite my audience to look at the image that is on the screen and tell me how it makes you feel.
My eyes automatically go to all the books and all the clutter. I feel like I would trip on the cords on the ground for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Safety.
Somehow it seems familiar, and I feel relieved by the painting or the photography there.
Mm-hmm. Good. So yeah, anybody else?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry. Please. Dr.
I was just going to say that I feel somewhat similarly to Gladys in that there's something somewhat comforting and inviting. It's in the foreground of the books and the sofa and the art. You know.
Thank you.
But the fireplace is covered with the couch, and
And
there
the
are no
window is
access-
closed
there-
too.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
one window is closed, and the other one Both windows are not accessible because of the bookcases. So the distribution of the space is not very well. It's a little bit awkward.
Probably
It's
the
like
access. Oh,
it's
sorry.
like overwhelming. Yeah.
Probably the access, like everything, it has a obstacle. The window has an obstacle. The fireplace has an obstacle. The chair has an obstacle. The books have an obstacle to get
Yeah.
to reach to the. Everything has a challenge to go through.
Yes. So, yes. So, in other words, how does it make you feel? Are you empowered? What does the space communicate?
Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of a lot worse spaces than this.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Great points. So, how about this one?
Sterile.
Mm-hmm.
Clean.
Clean.
Not very inviting.
Not very inviting or very inviting?
Not very inviting.
Okay, good.
Kind of.
I'm gonna challenge everybody, but I don't like the camera in there.
Okay.
Somebody's watching his Big Brother room. So yes, I will not go in.
Mm.
At least they keep the art. So
I
Yes.
mean, they also have like the tables like a lot more accessible. Like it seems like they want to promote more of that group interaction. Maybe like putting some items on the table would make it a little bit more inviting.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. It is interesting. You're making very interesting points here, but I would like to share that this is the same room. It was just redesigned to kind of be more orderly, decluttered. There were soothing colors that were introduced in the room on the right. And in general, it appears to be better organized. It might kind of look a little more sterile that we wish. Perhaps it kind of suggests certain institutional aspects of the space and perhaps practical ways to keep the room clean. But nevertheless, in my view, it is a huge improvement compared to what the room was before. And so this idea, these two images illustrate the idea that physical environment is the program as much as routines, policies, therapies, and so on. That is according to Jonathan Farrell. He is the executive director of the Committee on Temporal Shelter in Burlington, in Vermont, which is what this place is. So, recent studies estimate that around 70% of Americans had some exposure to trauma. Trauma may have lasting negative effects on individual mental, physical, and emotional well-beings, according to multiple research, and including research conducted and presented by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. When it comes to homelessness, the numbers are alarming, with over 90% or more homeless folks experiencing adult trauma, such as violence, sexual assault, robbery, threats of harm, and so on. And 90% of homeless population experienced childhood trauma or had adverse childhood experiences associated with physical or emotional abuse, neglect, parental separation, domestic violence, or substance abuse. So numbers are truly alarming. And so the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, over a decade ago, developed a trauma-informed care approach, which can be defined as the process-centered principles intended to promote healing and reduce reduce risk of re-traumatization for vulnerable individuals. My colleague, Jill Publi, spent many years researching design for homelessness. And based on the trauma-informed care framework, she developed trauma-informed design principles, which stem from basic human needs: dignity and self-esteem, empowerment and personal control, security, privacy, and personal space, stress management, sense of community, and beauty and meaning. So the spaces that embrace these principles can provide users a place that facilitates their exit from homelessness. These environments exude optimism, calmness, and respect that support people's sense of dignity and self. And in the subsequent slides, I'm just going to speak broadly and illustrate these 6 trauma-informed design principles and how they could be presented architecturally. For example, the sense of dignity and self-esteem could be supported at different levels. For example, at the apartment entrances, soft highlights avoid over harsh shadows and or institutional uniformity, and they look more welcoming. In the kitchen, task lighting and wood finishes look soft and welcoming again and warm, which which is the feeling we associate with cooking and food in general. Windows allow daylight in and bring views into spaces, which reinforce circadian rhythms and again bring a sense of optimism to the space users. Small details like sofa and cushions in the image on the right-hand side. You can see that the sofa also can look as a day bed or just regular bed. So just by putting 2 cushions on the sofa, it already changes its appearance from a bed and the room perception as a bedroom into more like a living room, and communicating the idea that, yes, I'm not embarrassed to receive guests there. It is my living room. Bathroom lighting is another important aspect that helps pre-verbally, subconsciously support dignity and self-esteem. For example, lighting, generous, bright lighting placed on sides helps to reduce shadows under the eyes and nose, and again, makes us look better and supports our self-esteem. The need number 2 or element number 2 is empowerment and personal control. Little things that make people feel more empowered and in control of their personal space do not have to cost a lot. You can see in the image on the left-hand side a small sign that a resident in Bakita Gardens, this is the this is a shelter for women survivors of domestic violence. So women who come to that place, they do not necessarily wish to be left by themselves, but they do want to have a sense of privacy. And that little sign that a woman or resident can clip on the side can just indicate I just want to be by myself, so please do not come in. Or on the other side of this very sign, there's a green mark that says, yes, please come in. I am open to socialization and welcome. I would love to welcome friends. So these little options, these little choices, again, support the sense of personal control. Security, privacy, and control of personal space is the next principle. Again, small things like protected back seating where possible, or seat pods, or separation of space into zones, like, for example, lounge zone or dining zone or bar zone at the back, or direct access to the spaces outdoors creates allows users to choose where they would like to be, and allows them to control the space, their personal space, where they happen to be at the moment. Stress management is another very important characteristic, and in this image illustrates an interior garden in the Laurel Apartments in Santa Monica. And so what we see here is represented is the idea of prospect and refuge. One can sit with safely protected back, and at the same time, the sight lines are open. So the person can bring their children so that they could be supervised. At the same time, the garden is separated with a fence, high fence, that supports the sense of security. So seen and be protected physically is, and again, another important feature that helps with stress management. Sense of community is very important for persons experiencing homelessness and those people who are trying to exit homelessness. Building a sense of community matters because isolation is a precursor to depression, and it coexists with helplessness. People that have a support net can feel less stressed and less paralyzed in taking action. This image here shows the Way Station Day Center in Burlington, Vermont, and it shows that the space is broken up in different centers or activity zones. There's a lounge area at the back that allows for more intimate or relaxed group, perhaps conversations. Tables allow folks to engage in board games or having drawing sessions and so on, or art making sessions. So providing also a reason for people to be in this space. Spaces that are centered on particular activities are very important for community building. And sometimes people do not feel comfortable just coming and joining everybody yet. So offering chairs to the side, or seating options, I wouldn't say chairs necessarily, seating options to the side or around the perimeter of the room where a person can just observe without being actively engaged. This is also very important. And also the design of round tables. Everything matters. Round tables are non-hierarchical. So when people sit together at the round table, there's no one at the head of the table. Everybody is at the head of the table. And the last sixth principle of trauma-informed design is beauty and meaning. Lighting, beautiful lighting, uplifting lighting sends a clear message. It's again subconsciously draws people eyesight upward, which elevates people's mood and kind of, again, perception of themselves. And the focus on organization and beauty, like this little plant in the cupboard, connecting to nature, beautiful nature, organic elements, that also kind of supports our innate desire to be connected with nature, which we associate with beauty. And it has important meanings, which are even sometimes hard to verbalize, but nevertheless, they're important components of our lives. And here I would like to show you a few examples of design transformations that were made by incorporating those 6 principles of trauma-informed design into the redesign of spaces. So this one, going back to the Way Station Day Center in Burlington, this was their reception desk. This is the center that's open every day of the year. It offers shelter for about 40 individuals, and they have been in continuous operation since 1982. So a few years ago, there was an acute need for redesigning of the space, and you can see why. The reception desk looks cluttered. On the left, you can see the entrance door. So when somebody walks into the space, all these kind of pinched papers start to fly and or flutter in the breeze. The walls are bright yellow. There's no room for queue or for waiting space in front of the reception desk. The open bins store supplies for the residents. So overall, kind of the idea of clutter and not particularly good, efficient space organization. After the team of architects and designers redesigned this space, it looked like this, unrecognizable. So the stakeholders and director of the day center embraced the language of trauma-informed design. They brought daylight in, they reorganized the space, they removed clutter, they incorporated kind of more soothing green, cool green color scheme. They brought biophilic elements like plants, natural wood-looking floors into the space. So it's a huge improvement compared to what this space was before the renovation. Another example is Atlanta Mission. Atlanta Mission is a kind of big umbrella organization that runs several homeless shelters in Atlanta. And this is an example. This space in particular was the Restoration House, which is the emergency shelter for women. The space looks really, to put it uninviting is to put it mildly. You can see fluorescent lights, low ceilings, again, this institutional yellow. Perhaps it was inspired by the logo organization, which is kind of a yellow lantern. Dark concrete floor. So the space was a warehouse in the past. So, and clearly the aesthetic of rundown warehouse is here, as we can sense it. So again, the team of architects and designers worked on redesigning this space, and this is what it looks like after the renovation. So you can see that the designers opened the ceiling, They brought natural light into the space from the front facade, from the front windows. They created layered ceilings where the front of the space is more open. The back row of chairs at the towards the back of the room offers more privacy and protection. You can see that there are different seating style options. Some are more loungy, some are side chairs. If people want to sit at the table and work on do something, maybe they have laptops, they can have an option to do here. Another important component that the designers introduced is instead of calling someone, which is kind of was still stigmatizing experience when someone is invited to the window. The designers installed TV screens so that the person who's called initials come on the screen, sort of like at the airport when we are waiting for available seats on the plane. And so those features, again, they're not breakthrough features, but they're subtle things that help support people's self-esteem and dignity. And then multiple layer lighting. You can see wall sconces create kind of warm puddles of light on the walls. You can see ambient recessed lighting. You can see kind of pendant lighting above the tables towards the back. So again, that layering and complexity really enhances the feel of the space and certainly takes away the institutional feel of to large extent, institutional feel of the shelter. Another example is Fuqua Hall Supportive Housing, also in Atlanta, run by Atlanta Mission. So these were in the past, these were rooms where athletes were housed during Atlanta Olympics. And so today, these are the spaces that are run by Atlanta Mission. And as you can see, the furniture is old, the spaces look dark. In some instances, there's clutter. So again, institutional feel to the whole room. And designers conceptually redesigned this space. This is a design proposal that seeks to better organize and offer more efficiency in the room. For example, in the behind the bed, the area next to the window features ottoman or flexible seating so that people could interact and emphasizing interaction between guests, visitors, and residents of the space. On the right, you can see a pegboard for organizing and tracking belongings, because of course with homeless folks, they bring their things very often kind of in a bag, and so that sorting through things, items, and organizing them is very important. So pegs on the pegboard, and then additional cubby storage along the space of the room offers kind of accessible and efficient way to manage one's possessions. And then another option would be for accessible room. So these are examples of design and redesign using trauma-informed design principles. However, the most recent development as of this year, last and this year, is the newly proposed dignified design framework that researchers at the University of Oregon, in partnership with the University of Denver in Colorado, and researchers and designers in Shopworks Architecture, an architecture firm located in Colorado. So they developed, and they're proposing this new dignified design network, framework, excuse me, that aims to create the atmosphere of dignity. So the rationale behind developing the dignified design framework was that although trauma-informed design is an efficient way to create supportive spaces for people experiencing homelessness, trauma-informed design focuses on individual needs at a particular moment in time through minimizing triggers and re-traumatization. So trauma-informed design focuses on pathology rather than kind of more holistic, optimistic view of built environment. So dignified design approach focuses on creating a condition of dignity as the key aspect of long-term well-being for people experiencing homelessness. So research cited at the bottom, conducted by Wilson, McCurr, Mann, Merzge, and Bolo, revealed that the most defining outcomes in housing are those of comfort, community, control, and safety. And the condition of safety was the most fundamental and deeply intertwined with these other conditions. So safety relates to one's physical and psychological well-being and peace of mind. Safety is also tied to the security of one's possessions and their sense of ownership and belonging to home. I will briefly define these other three conditions so that we would kind of be on the same page with terms. Comfort is associated with the ability to be physically, psychologically, and socially at ease. Comfort could be described in terms of sensory richness, the ability to form connections with surroundings, and opportunities to modify one's environment. Activities such as gardening, caring for pets, or communal cooking are exemplify comfort. Control is the ability to make authentic and autonomous choices about movement or engagement with the space and people in the space. And community emerges from positive connections with self and others, including neighbors, staff, family, and pets. So design attributes that support conditions of dignity are sensory engagement, nested layers, and identity anchors. While I'm describing these three design attributes, I would like to show you a diagram that captures this concept or approach, a framework of atmosphere of dignity. So design attributes are sensory engagement, which includes elements that offer gentle sensory stimuli, supporting self-regulation and reducing stress. These attributes allow spaces to avoid institutional sterility. They incorporate natural materials, reduce noise, and create clear sight lines. The activities that illustrate sensory engagements are working in the garden, for example, enjoying the sun in a window-filled room, or daylight-filled room, sitting by the fireplace, or rocking in the chair on a porch. Nested layers include varied spatial options for being by oneself, or with others. These environments feature cozy seating nooks, for example, spatial laundry rooms, and varied seating arrangements. And identity anchors are the elements that reflect unique local identities and histories associated with the place. And in their turn, they foster a sense of belonging and place attachment. These could be personalizing features such as shelves outside unit doors for displaying items, wall art and murals, and spaces for rituals and routines such as smoking in gazebo or taking a dog out. So all these experiences play a significant role in cultivating belonging and combating isolation. So, and I would like to share with you a case study of a facility that was recently completed, and folks 2 years ago moved into this facility. This is a permanent supportive housing development located in Loveland in Colorado, designed by Shopworks. So they have an opportunity to put their research and theory into actual design. So we will look at the spaces and see how they support sensory engagement, nested layers, and identify identity anchors. This is the exterior view of the building, and you can see that there are clear pathways that offer choices for navigation. Throughout the facility, there is clear access to daylights, access to interior garden, and there are also secure boundaries, which are again associated with the sense of safety, community building, and so on. And here I would like to invite, again, my audience to look at this space here and identify those features that might support sensory engagement, nested layers, and identity anchors. So maybe we could start with by pointing out features that support sensory engagement in this image.
Maybe the brick wall could support the sensory engagement.
Mm-hmm. In what way? Why does it support sensory engagement?
Because it's a different texture, so you can touch. I don't know, it's something that I regularly do.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Would the lights above each table also be a sensory engagement?
Mm-hmm.
And the windows.
Windows, yes. Mm-hmm. How about nested layers?
The little canopies on top of the tables. They're
Mm-hmm.
inviting.
Mm-hmm. Sort of like little houses. Again, the idea of prospect and refuge, clearly.
Maybe
And
the material also, like the wood, and it's like cozy, I guess. It's warm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that the different seating options kind of provide different opportunities for different postures.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes. Benches and yes, and stools and chairs, different table heights. Mm-hmm.
And I can see the different also treatment of the floor. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, floor treatment. Yes. So the most of the floor is concrete, although not most of the floor. In the central area, you can see kind of a polished concrete floor. In the kitchen area, sort of in the central area, you can see tiles. And then a little bit to the right, this with the kind of where we see a little bit of this lounge chair in the corner, it's carpet.
So maybe
Would
that
you?
treatment help for the identity of the space. Like in this space, you
Mhm.
can do this, and this other space, you can do.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yes. And I also wanted to point out to the clear sight lines that this space offer fair. I mean, other than a few partitions, but to the most part, the space reads well. There isn't anything that's hidden. If one portion of the space is abstracted, it's really easy to step aside gently and again, continue reading the space, which is a really important feature for feeling safe. And again, at the intuitive level, it allows people to read the space and it builds confidence. It gives them opportunity to make a decision whether they want to join or not, because they have complete information of what's going on in the space without putting a person kind of on the spot.
And also it gives some privacy.
Mhm.
So, but I'm thinking if it's really privacy or not, or it's just a sense that you are not overexposed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. So this is the other view, kind of from the kitchenette area of the same space. And here, look at these interesting light fixtures. They're kind of felty pendants above the countertop. They offer visual engagement. They are certainly unique features that kind of contribute to unique identity of the space. And they also serve as sound mitigation device because they're felty, so they would be sound absorbent. As you can see, there are a lot of reflective materials in this space, polished concrete, tiles, lots of hard surfaces, so they bring this softness to the space to both visual and soften the sound. You can see that there's access to the outside, which is the access to that outdoor uh, um, uh, garden or green space. And then nested layers, you can see that there are mailboxes, resident mailboxes to the left. Again, easily accessible, but provide an extra amenity in this central space.
And
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I wanted to say that there is a primacy of the vertical lines.
Mm-hmm.
So it's stimulating in a way.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting that yes, you pointed it out. Maybe it's a far-fetched, but potentially it could be referencing could be a biophilic element that referencing woods, trees,
Yes.
especially with unfinished, kind of untreated, not untreated, but natural wood finish of the columns. Yes, this is a great point. And so this is another view again of the same area. You can see how rich, even in one space, you can see how different zones of this space kind of all offer almost different feel. Unfortunately, this photograph does none of this photograph shows a big fireplace. See that sofa, brown sofa on the background? It is actually facing a large fireplace in the space too. And here you can see those felty elements, light fixture element a little more closely. And then I wanted to point out the wall at the back, which offers kind of like these soft lines, gradients, again, soothing, offers some visual interest, and subtle visual stimulation here. So, and this is what the hallway in residence spaces looks like. So it's a double loaded corridor, but each entrance into the room has some sort of delineation on the floor, kind of mimicking the doormat. And then next to each entrance, there is a kind of a niche, you can see to the left, which with installed recessed light fixture inside, so people, residents can choose to leave it blank or to do some sort of arrangement of objects to express themselves. These two examples on the left are from the residents, how they chose to decorate their niches. So again, that kind of reinforces the sense of identity and allows people to express kind of who they are. So that's moving to the conclusion of my presentation today. I would like to share, if you would like to read more about trauma-informed design and designing for dignity framework, I would recommend the book that Jill Publi, Lauren Trujillo, and I co-authored. It was published in 2022. So it's a great resource. We cover different case studies and building typologies from emergency shelters to day centers, permanent supportive housing, and we discuss frameworks, approaches, different population, homeless population groups, and how to design for those. And I would also like to invite you to peruse the website called Design Resources for Homelessness. I'm the project lead for this project. We are a nonprofit organization that focuses on producing original research and dissemination of best practices and research, academic research, to stakeholders, to inform architects and designers who would like to know more about how to design for people, for homeless folks. So this is, I invite you to, again, to check our website. For example, we offer downloads. All information is publicly available, free of charge. We offer different reports that focus on designing for older persons who experience homelessness, or families, or women victims of domestic, survivors of domestic violence. And our latest report that is coming out, it's not available yet on the website, but it will be in just a week or so. It's the report that focuses on pet companions, animal companions design, and literature review for companion animals, and design suggestions for that. And so, to conclude, I would like to say that physical settings, again, can help harm or be a benign influence on a person's mood, perceptions, and how they see the world, others, and their own self. And it can also be important for at the organizational level. Built spaces also lend an impression of a support organization, its vitality, ability to manage things well, and success in its goals. So with that, I would like to open the floor for questions or comments.
This is very, very interesting, Dr. McLean. It's really super interesting and very, there are many topics here. I would like to start by giving the opportunity to Dr. Professor Schneider. Please, you're muted.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I want to thank this center for hosting this. My field is in the humanities. I'm a professor of creative writing. I founded our Masters of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. And I'm very interested in the impact of aesthetics on the brain and on our health. And this relates to that in some way. My question, though, is about funding. I mean, I think you presented a very enlightened paradigm for improving housing for the homeless and for those who are struggling in a variety of ways, whether it's poverty or domestic abuse. And so I'm curious to know, what are the sources of funding for these facilities? Is it mostly private funding or public funding? And then how do you approach cities like Los Angeles or New York City, which have these huge homeless populations, with a variety of shelters and county-sponsored mental health facilities, most of which I suspect do not meet these standards, and so how do you approach them and change the existing conditions and paradigm to this more ideal model?
Yeah, this is a great question, and a very important one. And it is, of course, the most important. Money is always the most important thing when it comes to offer meaningful support to people who are in need. So the sources for financing these projects are different. Most of them, I would say, they are public, private, some sort of enterprises. Sometimes it is nonprofit organizations who would be a kind of the management organization, but they would still have to fundraise private funds, or sometimes municipalities would share cost or fraction of a cost when building facilities like that. Having said that, many cities do understand, like Los Angeles, they do understand the importance of combating with homelessness, but it is such a huge problem. Just the scale of it is could be like so large that one wouldn't know where to start. So nevertheless, Los Angeles, again, partners, I don't know too well the financial side of it. I work with architects, but I know several examples in Los Angeles where the private organizations and nonprofit organizations invited big architects, important architects who, by their name, attracted investors and designed lovely facilities for people who are to take people off the street. So I know it's very ambiguous answer without too many details, but I kind of focus on architectural side of it.
So, but it's really this type of trauma-informed architecture is more expensive, Or I don't know if Professor Snyder, that's kind of, you know,
Well, I guess that's an underlying premise of my question, that it would be typically more expensive than the,
but is it really?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. When you start planning
Mhm.
from the very beginning, um, when you embed these principles into, like, when you start thinking in terms of these principles, it doesn't have to be, because the building would have to be built one way or the other. And you can build it poorly, partitioned, put paint on the wall. You still buy paint. You still buy furniture. It doesn't have to be more expensive. It's kind of very similar to LEED. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the LEED system, which is the system that facilitates sustainable buildings that are energy efficient.
Yeah.
And so LEED buildings don't have to be like exponentially more expensive, maybe marginally, fractionally, but not by a lot, and certainly not to the extent of diverting people losing interest in designing LEED buildings, or when it comes to homelessness, trauma-informed design or dignified design spaces. I think a larger factor in the challenges that design and nonprofit supporting organizations face is NIMBY, not in my backyard's psychology, the kind of attitude that many communities adopt. They fight tooth and nail not to have permanent supportive housing, or let alone shelter, in their neighborhoods. That's why very often shelters are tucked away from prestigious, kind of well-developed, fancy neighborhoods. They're placed on the outskirts of town, and that is a recipe for success. So for failure for these people, right?
Yeah.
Because they can't. There's very the public transportation infrastructure might not be there. They're stuck. The message that is communicated, that out of sight, out of mind, we don't want you in our neighborhoods. Why should we spend taxpayer money on supporting people who choose to be what they are?
I think
Yeah.
that's very, very interesting. I also wanted to see what you think about the different affordances that you show us. So basically, an enriched environment is an environment that allow us to make choices, give us opportunities to either manifest what we're thinking, feeling, empathy, and all that. And what I find in like the academic buildings, it's like a negation of that. It's like no individually, not individual expression. And for us working with the brain and we have to be creative anyhow to be productive as academicians. I find this like very limiting.
Yeah.
Very limiting. Like I have encountered like the palette, like where the person that takes care of the building say, well, we have this palette or so, and the palette is different, the 50 shades of gray. And so is there can we use these arguments of dignity and to promote, and how can we do that keeping the standardized um, you know features that academia is imposing on us? Is it valid to really personalize your space? Is it really valid to, like, we cannot even bring natural plants to our floor because of fire hazards. So, so what's your advice? I think I suffer from this. It feels oppressive.
Yes, Gladys, it's amazing that you asked this question because this is exactly what prompted me to write my dissertation. And my dissertation was about the design of educational spaces because some educational spaces support communication between students and faculty. They're stimulating. You kind of want an educational environment to be a place where people are excited to be, where ideas kind of flow and are shared. And it is amazing how much spaces can do to bring people together or to separate them. So starting with classroom design, windowless classrooms are really horrible. I teach in one of those windowless classrooms, and my students, we know the kind of physiological responses to, especially at the end of the day when students are tired, there is no kind of positive distraction like if we had a window, people would glance, people would kind of refocus their intention, and then they would be able to focus on material, continue. In a windowless classroom, it's horrible. And then, so this is just on the kind of the classroom design level. And we also take kind of for granted, we never question the idea that why should the instructor be at one end of the room and the rest of the students be on the other? Can it be that the instructor is in the center and the chairs and desks are arranged around them? But that is kind of like, would require like, I can imagine high raised brows in administration. Why would you want to do that, such a thing? Because it will create more interesting, stimulating spatial arrangement that would prompt conversations and more kind of engagement. So that's kind of at the classroom level. In terms of allocating, for example, offices, faculty offices, and hallways and student gathering spaces, what my dissertation research showed that when you, like architects or administrators, sometimes think that if you put faculty offices next to a busy hallway, that would mean that faculty and students would see each other and communicate. This is actually works the opposite way because faculty need some quiet time. Sometimes they need some privacy to focus on, scholarly work that they do. And students at the same time, there's no question that there's a hierarchy. Faculty is higher. So students are intimidated by crossing that threshold. That's kind of, it's very abrupt, very narrow threshold between public corridor and private faculty domain. And students are not comfortable. That's what my research showed. So what works well is to put some sort of neutral buffer zone between public space, faculty space, and faculty space, some sort of like maybe a meeting area where it would be a neutral zone. It wouldn't be faculty space, it wouldn't be kind of student space, but where they could meet. So that works well. And in terms of like overall educational spaces, opening spaces up and allowing that kind of visibility to the degree that it can be, opening spaces, it's seeing other people doing scholarly work, conversing, meeting, excites other people. It's nice to see students being studious. It's nice to see faculty having interesting conversations in the open. So there's a lot of complexity, but kind of like if I were to design educational spaces, I would probably make them more open than enclosed, while providing, of course, spaces for private, quiet, focused work for the faculty. And of
Thank
course,
you,
by a field.
Elena. Yes. So what's really, I mean, we know privacy is a perception.
Mhm.
It can be in an open space and still gets private. And we do that with headphones, for example. We get a lot of privacy just with the headphones. And it's a sound, but so when we ask people, you want to be in an open space, people think I want my space.
Yeah.
Like in those co-working areas, they look very nice, but these people comes and go. But
Yeah.
what about in areas where we have to go every day? So what is I enjoy very much the treatment that you show for women in shelter, because it really was open, but it kind of have some options there.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's what we call affordances, and affording different, like you said, postures, different levels of privacy or kind of protection, physical protection, backs. Maybe it would be just a high back chair that would be enough. Maybe it could be a niche. It's interesting that the space where my office is, we have a large ground atrium, and you're right that people typically choose the niches, alcoves first. Those usually fill up fast. And then uh, locations closer to the wall. So people do hug walls, and because we do, as animals, we need our backs to be protected. And then eventually kind of the center starts to fill up. So, but designing for that, it's thoughtful design would be able to accommodate for these different types of need.
So involving the users, do users know what they want? Or, like you have in mind kind of what you saw in a picture or a photography, and then you think that you want that. Like I kind of felt like with the yellow room, with the couch, and with the red design, I'd rather still be in the couch, even though I might say, well, this one is better designed. So how can we elicit the real need of the person? And I'm thinking privacy, of course, but I'm also thinking the need to move, to change postures, and even to be free to improve your physical activity. So is design thinking maybe one way of getting to the real you in terms of preferences and needs for design, for example?
This is a great question too. I think people whose job it is not to think about design probably wouldn't be able to tell you what they need. They will be able to tell you what they think they need based on what they know, because people know what they like and they like what they know. But it is hard for people to think about something that's not on their mind, they have never experienced. So that's why the academic research, neuroscience, architecture, blending, we can study not necessarily even conscious responses, but subconscious responses of people, because this is, again, selecting protection against the wall. This is not something that people do kind of consciously and intentionally. It makes them feel good. So in that sense, that biometric research that that collects data and analyzes user data in real environments, that would reveal to us what people actually want without asking people. I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't talk to folks, but sometimes our bodily responses will tell us more than articulated responses. And we have to be, like, as researchers, we also have to be very careful not to plant ideas into participants' kind of minds. So and otherwise it'll be just like what we tell them. For example, I did a piece of research on student perceptions of student union. And I was very careful not to ask them, what do you think about the ceiling? What do you think about the furniture? What do you think about the floor? Because this is kind of planting ideas that they need to start paying attention to those things. I kind of enjoy speaking with people and seeing what they bring up in the conversation, because people would frequently talk about things that bother them, or more seldom about things that make them happy. But neutral, something that's well designed and works well, we do not notice good design. We only notice what doesn't work or something that's extraordinary. And so I think then in that sense, our bodily responses to built environment, how we react to lighting, how we react to furniture arrangements, kind of, that's what will give us that good information about users. And yeah.
I'm always surprised how little we know about architecture and design of our spaces. You know, like in health, we are talking always about how to get health information to the people. I appreciate very much the website. I can see that it has amazing resources. So I think that we need to be more aware. And I don't know how. I'm not saying about the architectural features per se, but be aware about this influence and the importance of design in our lives in general. Because, I mean, really cluttering, it's every day for some people, and weekdays for some, and cleaning on
Yes.
So, but really has effects on people, and I wonder, as an educator, also, what's your perception about the dissemination about this public information that we need to deliver, and what is the best way?
That's, yeah. Design Resources disseminates. We are trying to do our best to disseminate. And actually, I think what's important is translating our research in kind of more digestible language and disseminating it. Like, we can't deny it. We live in a day and age of social media, and that's how many people get their information. So preparing bite-size messages on social media about the importance of built environment and good, healthy, supportive features. We don't have to explain. I think we could just communicate the message. And I think with our students, we need to explain to our students, we are lucky to have access to them, and we can explain to them why. And it is remarkable, because when they go to their job, when they get their job, they will be able to communicate these ideas to their coworkers, to their higher ups, and that's how I think the word can spread. I can see it in my students. I remember when I was a student, I graduated from design school. I was so excited, and I came to my place of work and I wanted to make the change. And I think young people are a force. I believe in their good intentions, and they
Well, they
are.
are the messier, I think. No, thank you so much, Elena. This has been really very enlightening. We are really at the top of the hour, but this has been amazing. And thank you so much. I think there are a lot of things that we have learned, and definitely good questions that we can pursue from the neuroscience perspective, or um, and I also took some messages home and to my office. So thank you so much. This has been really very useful. And thank you, Neira, for making this uh, connection possible and for being here today. I don't know, okay, if we have, uh, okay, yes, we cannot. Pass this opportunity to invite everybody to our event, Memory and Heart Connections. And hopefully, Yelena, maybe next year you can join us here in person. We have two of Moving Boundary presenters this time, Karina and David Darnbound. So we are going to be discussing different aspects of brain health, Alzheimer's prevention, and also design. And it's about culture. Every year we select one theme, and the theme for this year is culture in the sense of legacy, and because we believe the development should be tied to and health should be tied to our roots and to our identity. And so that's part of that. That's going to be January 29th in Brownsville, Texas. And we are gonna record everything, but the exact menus. Last year we had about 300 people coming, mostly from the community, patients, caregivers, healthcare providers, scientists, architects. So of course, folklorico, dancing, singing, and all these things that we like. And before that, we have the Texas Alzheimer's Research and Care Consortium. It's also a free event in person or online. So that's also something that we care a lot, because Texas is having this big initiative for dementia prevention. And it's the only state in the nation that has decided to invest $3 billion for dementia prevention. And hopefully housing is going to be one of the themes that in terms of prevention, isolation, and supporting aging in place. So I think we are going to have that kind of a development here in Texas. And we have 9 poster presenters presented by our own people at UTRGV. So we are very excited to actually go there next week. So, well, thank you so much. And Neira, what is the next, when is the next Brain and Beyond?
So the reason why I didn't put it up is because it was I did receive a cancellation, so I am looking for a replacement, but it will be on Tuesday the 27th.
Okay, thank you so much. And I want to thank all of you for your attendance today. And Professor Snyder, it's a pleasure to have you here with us. And we would love to hear more about your program.
Yeah.
And we had one student intern in the summer from your program, and we enjoy her within the group. And but we love to
Yeah.
know more about what you guys do.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Maestro. I really enjoyed being here with you today. And I'm actually interested in this DPRIT initiative
Yeah.
and using the arts and neuro arts as a way to promote neuroplasticity. And so I'm also interested in this event you're doing in Brownsville. So I'd like to be in touch with you and share a little bit more of.
Oh, definitely. And maybe Nira can pencil you out for anytime so you can share what you do, what you're thinking. And so it's,
Yeah,
as you
enjoy this
notice, it's
event.
a very informal kind of think tank type of approach here. And architecture is, of course, one of the neuro arts. So
That's right. That's right. So okay, good. Well, I'll be in touch with you and with Naira. Is it
Nira,
Yes,
yes.
data.
Naira? Okay, great,
Thank you so
wonderful.
much. So I
My
hope to see
pleasure. It
you
was
soon.
really very informative. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
And
so
thank you,
much.
Thank
Yelena.
you very much,
Yeah,
Yelena.
thank you,
Nice to see
Elena.
you.
Thank
Take
you.
care,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.